Hi everyone, my name is Shi Jiapan. Today I'm going to introduce our system, UniverSense, where we use the heterogeneous sensing signals to pair the IoT devices. This is a collaborative work with Carlos Ruiz, Jun Han, Adele Labanas, Patrick Platt, Heiyong No, and Pei Zhang, and we are from Carnegie Mellon University. So with the growth of the IoT devices, many different devices have entered people's everyday life. In fact, it is estimated that by the year 2020, there will be over 20 billion devices interconnected in the world. That means each user will have access to over 13 devices. And of course, we are expecting some of the users will have way more than that. So to allow convenience usage of these devices, the easy pairing of these devices to the network, which means linking the virtual ID to the physical devices in the world, is important. The traditional way to establish reliable IoT device pairing mainly focus on two types of methods, including passkey and QR code. So for passkey, it is pretty easy that the devices will demonstrate a series of the number, and the user will need to type in the number to conduct the pairing. While the QR code, well, most of the case, the devices will either have a QR code printed on it, or have a display that displays the code which contains the information of the device. And the user will have a camera that can be able to scan this QR code and then obtain the pairing with the information within. So nowadays, there are a lot of new type of IoT devices in the market, including a lot of wearables, the earplugs, and the smart light bulb, the smart cup, and even more generic sensing nodes that you can apply on any type of object that you want to sense. And most of them are using IMU, for example, to detect the motion of the objects. So all these new IoT devices, they actually have no interfaces, nor a surface that you can print or display the QR code. However, they do have sensors embedded in them, which can be utilized to achieve pairing. And recent years, there are various works that's been done on utilizing sensing to achieve the IoT device pairing. One of the methods that people explore is by using a special devices and pointing to the target device that you need to pair. It's pretty easy to use, although it does require the extra devices as well as the compatible radios on all the devices. So people look into different methods that eliminate humans that's in the loop for sensing, and look into the shared contextual events and use that to conduct further pairing. So these type of methods, they require the devices with specific type of sensors co-located in the same environment, and then when the physical events happening in the environment over and over again, these devices can obtain enough information that's unique enough to achieve pairing. Although it usually takes a really long time, because since there's no human involvement, it takes a long time to wait for those events naturally happen. So researchers further look into another type of sensing-based pairing method by utilizing the shared motion applied on different objects and to extract the information and conduct the pairing. So this does allow easy pairing, but it also requires the devices, the target devices can be, say, shakeable for the user, which can be some other limitation we'll talk about later. So we are looking into a scenario where a large number of IoT devices with no user interface need to be connected to a trusted network. So if you are thinking about the disadvantage of the prior words, it might be difficult for them to apply in this scenario if it's impossible, but not impossible. So under this scenario, if you scan for the devices around, you'll see a lot of devices with similar appearance and similar names, and you can probably not even know which one is which. So even you want to pair them, you don't even know which one did you put on the door or which one you put on the coffee maker. So on the other hand, if we think about IoT devices in the smart home or in the smart building, there are a lot of different types of IoT devices. Some of them are, as we discussed, as low resources with no UI and probably some sensors on board. While there are other what we call more powerful devices, which does has UI and a lot of sensors, and it can be easily connected to the trusted network that we are targeting to. So what if we can connect these low resources devices with no UI to those what we call powerful devices, and then through them we can achieve the final goal to connect to the trusted network. So if we are trying to use a prior word to construct this pairing, it will be really difficult because the smart TV sometimes that we are looking into sometimes are stick on the wall, and it's really hard to shape that. So if we look at what other sensor the smart TV has, they do have cameras. And there are a lot of other network devices that we think is powerful devices. They have cameras too. Although the challenge remains, because what we think is low resources, no UI devices, they have IMU. They are looking at completely different sensing modality. So what can we do to make them comparable for pairing? So we present UniverSense, where we try to pair via heterogeneous sensing signals. If we look back into the example where we want to pair the IoT devices to the smart TV with the camera, we'll simply ask the user to shake the device in front of the camera, where the camera and the IoT device that's co-located in the same environment will observe this shaking at the same physical events. So on the IMU side, it will observe the acceleration, the rotation rate, and magnetic field in the device coordinate. While from the camera side, it also sees the IoT device, but in the displacement, and it's in the camera coordinates. So before we are able to compare the signals, we need to make them under the same coordinate to compare. And the real-world coordinate would be a great choice. So we conducted the conversion and we put them both in the world coordinate. Then the next problem is the displacement still cannot be directly compared to the acceleration. So we need to convert them to a common space. So in considering of the integration will have the accumulative error on the acceleration, we decided to, instead of do that, we decided to use a second derivative to put the displacement into the acceleration. And then we can compare the signal from both IMU and the camera in the world coordinate of their acceleration of the IoT device. So the takeaway message we want to emphasize here is that we can utilize the real world to link different sensing modalities. So once we are able to get that comparable signal, we further conduct the fingerprint generation by first of all, select the signal in the axis of the real world coordinate with the highest signal to noise ratio. Then, with thresholding on that signal For example, if it's this sample is above the threshold, we consider it as 1, otherwise 0, and create a fingerprint that can be compared. Then we compare the fingerprint from both IMU and camera. If they are beyond the threshold, we consider these two devices are paired. Otherwise, we'll reject it. So we conducted a real-world experiment to evaluate this new pairing method. And the sensing system we're using is as showing on the right-hand side, where currently we're using a colorful cover to allow the easy detection of the object. So we conduct both control and uncontrolled experiment. For the control experiment, we're mostly focusing on investigating how the motion, different factors of the motion, will affect the system performance in terms of generating fingerprints that can be compared. And in the uncontrolled experiment, we're more looking into the human factors. We asked 5 different participants, and each of them contributes 10 motions where they can do whatever they want with the IoT device we provide to them, and see how unique each motion will be. So for the control, let's look into the control experiment first, where we analyze the different factors of the motion. So we do ask the user to conduct a controlled motion, which is a linear motion, and the speed, the average speed of the motion is controlled by metronome beats. Then we fix the average velocity of the motion and ask them to conduct the motion across different distance, which we call motion amplitude later. Then we fix this motion amplitude and ask them to conduct this motion at different velocity. And we demonstrate the results of the motion amplitude difference, first of all, in the figure on the right-hand side, where the x-axis is the motion amplitude, 10, 20, 40, and 80 centimeters, while the y-axis is the fingerprint similarity of that motion perceived by the IMU and the camera respectively. So as you can see, when the motion amplitude is low, the fingerprint similarity is actually high. The intuition behind that is that when we fix the average velocity of the motion, the smaller your motion amplitude is, the faster the motion direction changing will be, and more often. So that means it will create higher acceleration signal, and for us, that indicates a higher signal-to-noise ratio. Now we look at a different parameter of the motion that we investigate, which is the velocity. And here we investigate 5 different velocities in terms of beats per minute from the metronome. So for example, if you conduct a complete cycle of like the return of the motion, we consider that as 1 beat. And we investigate these 5 different beats. The faster the beats are, the higher the fingerprint similarity is, which has a similar intuition behind it compared to the other parameter we investigate, where the higher the average velocity is, the faster the change of the motion direction is, which giving us higher acceleration, causing it to have higher signal-to-noise ratio. So then we conducted the uncontrolled experiment on 5 different participants, as we discussed before. And for each fingerprint generated by the camera, we compare it to all the other fingerprints generated by the IMU. And we demonstrate the result on the figures in the right-hand side, where the y-axis is a fingerprint similarity. The light gray boxes showing the result from the fingerprint similarity generated from the fingerprint from camera and the IMU of the same motion, while the darker gray box is presenting the fingerprint similarity of the camera from the camera and the IMU, but of different motions. So as you can see, if these two fingerprints are from the same motion, they have really high fingerprint similarity, and if it's not, it has a dramatic drop. So if we consider a threshold of the pairing as shown in the figure as 0.8, it can clearly distinguish the paired and the non-paired fingerprints. So we do conduct a pairing success rate investigation, and our results showing that our pairing successful rate achieved 99.9% in terms of F1 score. So from here, I'm gonna further discuss what can we extend from this work and what will be the direction we can take from now on. So first of all, we believe that UniverSense can be extended to achieve the secure pairing. So the fingerprint we generated in this work can be applied in the protocols that can establish shared keys, then further achieve the secure pairing. In addition, in this work, we are asking the user to intentionally shape the device. So can we utilize the motion unintentionally conducted by the user, even when they install the sensor to conduct the pairing? Or something like your wearable, the motion detected by your wearable versus the camera detects what your motion is. Whether this different sensing modality can be used to pair the different devices. Furthermore, as we discussed in the earlier slides, that we believe heterogeneous sensing can be used to assist each other with the understanding of the physical world. So, for example, what if we can use camera to assist these low resources sensor to learn and sense and to interpret the physical world? So, in conclusion, in this presentation, we present UniverSense, an alternative pairing method for low resources IoT device that has no UX. UniverSense converts heterogeneous sensing signals to a common space to compare and achieve the pairing purposes. We conduct a real-world experiment to demonstrate the pairing performance, and in the real-world, in the uncontrolled experiment, we achieved 99.9 F1 score. So that concludes the talk. Thank you very much. And as a personal message here, I'll graduate this May, and I'm looking for faculty position, as Jacob mentioned. And I'd really appreciate it if you can take my file from the pile you get. And thank you.